It's the second Sunday of the new year, January 8th, 2023. And here we are gathered at the New Thought Center to share and spread our good wishes, love, and inspiration. We are part of the International New Thought Alliance. It's not a denomination, but rather an umbrella organization. It includes Science of Mind, Unity, Religious Science, Center for Spiritual Living, and some others. New Thought teaches the unity of all life. Intentions and ideas flow through a field of consciousness, which actually affects and creates the world around us. In New Thought, we believe that the secret to living a successful life is to consciously choose positive and productive thoughts. Put another way, as you think, so you become. Everything that occurs in our lives is simply the manifestation of our consciousness. My heart goes out with the sound of the bell. May all the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow. Okay, say after me. My heart goes out with the sound of the bell. May all the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and sorrow. And sorrow. And to help us remember who we are, I've got my favorite little song. Join in. Same as last week. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Can we do it again? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. So, welcome. Anybody here for the first time? Tell us. Hi, what's your name? And where do you live? So you're a local. How'd you get here today? What brought you here? Beep, beep. Okay. You heard about us? Glad you did. Welcome. Great. And now we'll get a professional song from our musician today, Vaboda.
E aloha, ayana noa. kamakani kaulana o ka aina a e ho he no ne kamakani ka ili aloha Upua kulei kumili mili kule kau ika veki ahe mili mili oe ahe iwa nau ahele mau no ukino Aloha you know Yahome Yahome luaka akamalehini au eno ai akupa kamakani kaili aloha kupua kulei kumili mili kule kau ika veki ahe mili mili oe ai iwa nau ahele mau no kukino
And Jamie will do the Science of Mind reading for today.
Aloha and good morning. Today we have Living Without Judgment, your choice. Our judgments mask us from ourselves by making us negative experts on people and things. Roger Teal, This Little Life is Joy. Never limit your view of life by any past experience. The possibility of life is inherent within the capacity to imagine what life is, backed by the power to produce this imagery or divine imagination. Ernest Holmes, The Science of Mind. We are more than our past, our upbringing, our ancestry, or our present experience. When we judge someone or a situation, we are offering an opinion, concluding right or wrong, black or white. Let's not confuse judging with discernment. When we are discerning, we are using insight and perception. We are making a decision as to what we believe, coming from a place of wisdom, love, and compassion. We are choosing that what we believe is truth and therefore best for ourselves or our loved ones. Both actions come from choice. When we judge, we are living from our past, what has happened before. We are coming from a place of fear and a possible repeat of past experiences. We are listening to a little voice of doom and gloom, past memories, warnings containing envy, hate, or disloyalty. When we choose discernment, we are making decisions in the present moment based in love and concern, not fear. It is time for us to remove the masks of limitation of the past. Let's create new ways to experience love, friendships, and joy. Where there is doubt, seek loving support. When there is confusion, go deep within to that living. Presence that can and does guide your every thought. Be consciously aware. Seek, and you will find. Ask, and the doors or hearts will open. Look for contentment, and you'll find it. It's your choice. And today's affirmation, I'll read it and then we can repeat it together. I choose this day to be in conscious union with the loving presence within me. Together, I choose this day to be in conscious union with the loving presence within me. Thank-
This is often the time we do a silent meditation, but as a silent meditation today, I'd like everybody to take a couple minutes to remember what we're all grateful for. Some of the things that came up for me that I was grateful for. I'm grateful to be part of this New Thought group. I'm grateful for the wonderful roof I have over my head and the people that I connect with, that I support and support me. The food Stephen grows and feeds us every day. And on and on. I'm just wondering, without using the mic or standing up here, can can somebody holler out some things that you're grateful for? Just holler some words. I'm grateful for.
Still be alive.
Yeah.
Every breath.
And that leads us into ordinaries and miracles. Some of these gratefulnesses could be ordinaries and miracles in our life this week. Um, but for that, if you have an ordinary miracle, please come up to the mic.
I'm getting older. I'm watching all my friends go. And I'll tell you what, it is really, really hard. But there's some kind of magic that happens all the time. It can't be denied. There's synchronicities all the time. I'm starting to know what people are going to say before they say it. And I'm starting to find that when I let go and trust, these synchronicities just flow. If I look for the gifts and not be all worried about what I've lost, it's really beautiful.
Next Monday, the 16th, we're going to be celebrating the miracle of Estefadora's life. Those of you who may know her, that's actually would be her 92nd birthday. She passed away late December. So if any of you would care to join, we're having a celebration down at the picnic area in the City of Refuge at about 3 o'clock on Monday. So you're welcome to come if you want to meet some people who remember Esta and add your contributions as far as experiences to that.
Not tomorrow, right?
Not tomorrow. Oh, yes, it is a potluck also. No, a week from Monday.
Two more. Two more ordinary and miracles. Please. Okay. Then let's have another song from Vaboda.
Ordinary miracle of just being alive and breathing every day. The thing about miracles, it's so ordinary. If you think about the ordinary life, that's a miracle in itself. I tell you, whew, man, just stop to think about who we are and what we're doing and just exactly what's going on. Wow. Miracle. Just an ordinary miracle. Alano hawaila leka alehua kua ivina nela o mauna kea Alano hawaila leka alehua kua ivina nela o mauna kea Kila kila o mauila le kalokelani kua irina nila o hale akala. Kila kila o mauila le kalokelani kua irina nila o hale akala. Oh, wahula le kailima kua irina nila o ka ala. Oh, wahula le kailima kua irina nila o ka ala. Kaulana kawaila le ka moki hana kua irina nila wai ale ale. Kaulana kawaila le ka moki hana kua irina nila wai ale ale. Aina ia mai, ala ka puanga, nā mō kueha, o ka pākipika. Aina ia mai, ala ka puanga, nā mō kueha, o ka pākipika.
Just sitting here, I have a delightful ordinary. Every week, Patty Wall makes a lay for the speaker. This week, thank you, Patty. It's just amazing. This week, there's a breeze coming through, and I'm constantly getting the scent of these flowers. It's just, it's the best thing. And that lay is on around the neck of Carolyn Ching, our speaker today. Carolyn's talk is called Anxiety, Tips and Tricks to Overcome It Naturally. Yay! Carolyn has been helping people overcome anxiety without meditation for over 20 years and is excited to share this information with the New Thought community. Carolyn Ching has been a hypnotherapy, NLP, timeline therapy practitioner and trainer for 22 years. She also has a background in nursing and counseling. She works with clients from all over the world via Zoom. She is sought after speaker at conferences across the USA and Australia. Carolyn is the author of Anxiety, the book, which she has copies of for us if we want over on the table there. It was published in 2022. She has previously lived and worked in England, Holland, and Australia, but currently resides in Kona and will soon be relocating to Australia. So I think this is a talk that will be good for and needed for all of us. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you. And thank you for this beautiful lay. It really is. And you obviously, channeled the colors of the dress because you've got the yellow flowers in here. So thank you. It's really beautiful. And the smell is just amazing. So as Shana said, I'm Carolyn Ching, for those of you that don't know me. And I have a background as a registered nurse, a counselor. And then for the last 20 plus years, I've been a hypnotherapist, NLP, timeline therapy practitioner and trainer. So how did I get interested in working with people with anxiety? Well, I was a registered nurse in the UK, and we used to get people coming into the emergency room that had symptoms of having heart attacks. And yet we discovered that it was just anxiety, okay? And there really wasn't anything that we could do to help them. So they just got sent home, and there really wasn't anything we could do, which I found quite frustrating in the nursing profession. And then my mother suffered from anxiety for many years. My first husband was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 28 when my son was 18 months old. And so there followed 3 years of very intensive chemotherapy, ultimately a bone marrow transplant. And he was one of the first people in Europe to be transplanted for the type of cancer that he had. And so the night prior to the bone marrow transplant, he was told, we have no statistics, it's 50-50. We don't know if you're going to make this or not. So obviously during that 3 years of the chemotherapy and during that bone marrow transplant, I had thoughts of, what if he dies? What if I end up having to bring my son up alone? What if I can't do this? And of course that led to anxious moments. Fast forward to Australia, where I had a very successful hypnotherapy counseling practice next door to a medical center. And one of my clients that I had really good success with, helping her to overcome anxiety, She went back to her doctor next door and told him what we'd been doing. So he then sent me another couple of patients, and they also had great results. And so that medical center, all the doctors started to send me many of their patients before they would put them on medication, which was huge, you know, because we all know the medical system, it's much easier to put people on anxiety drugs than to give them other solutions. So I was really fortunate. And over a period of about 10 years, I got to work with a lot of people from many different walks of life and help them to overcome their anxiety and, you know, see how they got their lives back together again. So it was awesome. So all of that has led to me writing this book. So anxiety can be said to be a warning from the unconscious mind to focus on what we want. And back in the 1500s, I think it was Lord Montaigne that said, "My life is full of terrible misfortunes, most of which have never happened." So although we think that, you know, anxiety is very prevalent now, and since COVID, it is much more prevalent, or maybe, you know, people are talking about it much more too, which is actually good. But it's been in existence, as we can see, all the way back to the 1500s and probably before that. Um, so with anxiety, there's a number of different factors that lead into it. And so the first thing I do when my clients come into the office is I ask them a series of questions. And you might want to check these questions off in your mind as I go through them. So, are you a perfectionist? Do you have high expectations of yourself and or others? Are you the person that other people come to for advice or to dump their problems on? Do you have difficulty saying no? Have you had a situation in the past few years where perhaps you've been out of control, either physically due to illness or injury or a mic, or to something in your environment? So, something that's happened in your environment either to you or to somebody close to you. Have one of your parents or both of your parents suffered from anxiety? And in the past few years, have you had any loved ones or people close to you that have passed away where perhaps you haven't had closure? So, if you've answered yes to 3 or more of those questions, the chances are at some point in your life you'll experience anxiety. And just as there are many factors like that that contribute to us getting anxiety, there's also a range of solutions and techniques that we can implement to overcome it. So, one of the first things that I work with my clients is the what if thinking. So, most people with anxiety are thinking thoughts of, what if that goes wrong? What if that doesn't work? What if I get sick? What if I don't have enough money to pay my rent at the end of the month? What if everybody hates me? What if I forget what I'm saying while I'm talking to you all this morning? So, those what if thoughts, our unconscious mind, which is the part of our mind that runs our body, stores our memories, houses our emotions, it can't tell the difference between what we're thinking and what's actually happening. And our unconscious mind acts and reacts kind of like a 5-year-old at that level. So if you do one what if thought, what if I don't have enough money to pay my rent at the end of the month? Okay, today's the 8th, but we're already thinking, what if I don't have enough money to pay my rent at the end of the month? Your unconscious 5-year-old thinks that's actually happening right now. Bucket loads of stress chemicals are being secreted into your body, of which adrenaline and cortisol are 2 of that cocktail. Now, if something were to actually happen, if we were to have somebody turn up at the door with a shotgun, or if all of a sudden we found a bear on our lanai, we would use the adrenaline and the cortisol to either fight or to run. So that's our fight flight chemicals. But when we have anxiety, we're just building those chemicals up in the body, not doing anything. And of course, those what if thoughts, we don't just stop at one. And the ones that we tend to be aware of are kind of like the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot more that we're doing that we're not even consciously aware of. And so, aside from all the other factors that we've talked about in the questions, that what if thinking really raises our stress levels and puts us in the fight flight mode or the sympathetic nervous system in the body. So, one of the techniques that I use with my clients to overcome these what if thoughts, and maybe they don't start with a what if, but they're always a thought about something that hasn't happened yet. And so I get my clients to say, stop. And if you're on your own somewhere for the first couple of weeks, say it out loud. Stop. Do I have proof? Okay, so 99.9% of those what if thoughts, there is no proof. What if I can't pay my rent at the end of the month? Well, today's the 8th. There might be some opportunities to get some income between now and the 31st, so I can actually pay my rent. So there is no proof. Let it go. Tell yourself the exact positive opposite. What if I can pay my rent on time? Now, the conscious mind, the big brother or sister, is there going, yeah, right, what if? Ha ha! Yeah. It doesn't believe it. It's the doubting Thomas. Okay? But the unconscious mind, the 5-year-old, needs to hear it. And every one of those what if thoughts that you can turn around is less stress chemicals in the system. And so that's the first thing we need to look at, is bringing down those levels of adrenaline, of cortisol in the body. And so that what if thinking is the place that I get all my clients to start with. Strange as it sounds, humming or chanting can really help to put our body into the parasympathetic healing mode, which is the rest, digest mode. The humming and the chanting, the resonance, actually activates the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in our body. And it sends a message to the brain to shift us into the parasympathetic or healing, rest, digest mode. Now, you can hum anything. You can hum the happy birthday song. You can hum whatever you want. You can hum in the car. You can hum around the house, in the yard, wherever. And hum even if you're feeling good, because it just helps to keep us in that parasympathetic mode. The other thing that helps is chanting, and you can chant anything. You can chant random words in English. You can chant Om. One I like to do is Om Mane Padme Om. So shall we all chant that a couple of times together? Om Mane Padme Om. Om Mane Padme Om. Om Mane Padme Om. Om Mane Padme Om. And you can already feel the effect of that in your body. So chanting is awesome. Singing doesn't have quite the same effect because it's not quite the same vibration. When we chant, we tend to come from a lower sound, more of a vibrational sound. So when Captain Cook first landed in Kealakekua, the locals thought that he was a ghost. 1, because he was white. 2, because he was breathing rapidly and shallowly from up here. So it looked almost as though he had no breaths. So that's why they thought he was a ghost. Now, as Westerners, we tend to be guilty of breathing from the chest upwards as opposed to belly breath. And if we're breathing rapidly and shallowly, that actually sends a signal to the brain to say that we're in the fight flight mode. So even our breathing can create those stress chemicals being dumped in the body. And that's why it's so important to check in on yourself, check in on how you're breathing, and try and make some changes there, particularly if you're somebody who does suffer from anxiety. And so one of the techniques that I have my clients do is what I call 5 by 5 breathing. And so what we do is we breathe in slowly to a count of 5. We hold for 5. But if you go blue at 3, please don't go to 5. I had one client in Australia who said, but I went blue at 3. I said, well, stop at 3. So we're holding for 5 if we can, and then exhaling to a count of 5. And we do that for 5 breaths. And then what I have my clients do is to actually program an alarm at random times through the day in their phone to go off. And when the alarm goes off, to do 5 of those breaths. That helps us to check in with our breathing during the day. Are we breathing slowly? Are we breathing from the belly? Because when you do that, breathing into a count of 5, holding for 5, and out for 5, it's much easier to do it from here than from here. And so 5 breaths, 5 times a day. And then if you need it, if you start to feel the symptoms of anxiety, and for some people that's palpitations, for some people it's sweaty palms, for some people it's an uncomfortable feeling in their gut, for some it's lightheadedness, for everybody it's different. And it's also different depending on how far into the anxiety we are before we even notice that symptom. But the very first symptom that you notice, begin to do that 5 by 5 breathing. It really helps. So I can run a few of those breaths here with you today so you get an example of how to do it. So let's do maybe 3 of those. So just getting ready to inhale, and just inhale slowly now, counting to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last one. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just breathe normally. So that breathing takes a little bit of practice just to get your own rhythm with it, your own pace with it. But it can really help, again, to diminish those stress levels and to get the body functioning in the parasympathetic mode, which is what we want. So that's another tip that you can start to play with. The third thing that I have all of my clients work with is what I call the sensory relaxation. And I'm going to do that with you here today too. So it's a relaxation exercise that's fairly quick, We don't need to be in a quiet environment to do it because we're actually going to use the sounds that we hear to help us relax. And it's an exercise that if you practice it at least once a day, every day, eventually what you'll find is that you do the first part of the exercise, which is rolling our eyes up and looking into the periphery, and you'll already feel yourself begin to relax. So after a few weeks, it really does become speed relaxation that you can do anywhere. Doesn't matter if you're at work, if you're at home, in the grocery store, wherever. It's something that you can do very quickly, very easily. And it's also in the chapter that I have about sleep, because most people who have anxiety, either in falling asleep or because they tend to wake up with lots of thoughts running around their head in the middle of the night, lots of head chatter. So, this is one of the techniques that we implement, helping people to sleep as well. But this is a great exercise to do at least once a day to start to stop the head chatter that goes on in our minds. So I'm going to get you to all sit comfortably and to just put your feet on the floor. And then with your eyes open, I want you to roll your eyes up and focus on a spot roughly where the wall meets the ceiling. So you're rolling your eyes up to focus on that spot. And as you're staring at that spot, I wonder if you can notice 4 things that you can see in your peripheral vision. It may be colors, shapes, objects. And still staring at that spot, listening for 4 sounds around you. It could be my voice, the traffic, the roosters. And still staring at that spot, noticing 4 things that you can feel. Perhaps you're back in the chair, your feet on the floor, your hands, and then just closing your eyes and just remembering 3 things that you saw in this space. Listening for 3 sounds around you. Focusing in on 3 things that you can feel. And then just opening your eyes, looking back at that same spot, concentrating on 2 things that you can see in your peripheral vision. Listening for 2 sounds around you. Focusing in on 2 things that you can feel. And then just closing your eyes, remembering 1 thing that you saw in this space. Listening for 1 new sound around you. And just focusing in on the feel of your breathing. And then when you're ready, just taking a deep breath and opening your eyes, coming into the room. So, who feels more relaxed after doing that? So, that's a great exercise that you can practice just once a day. And then, if you need it, it's great for people who don't like being on flights. They can sit on the plane and do that exercise. It really doesn't matter where you are, you can do it anywhere. And as I said, if you practice that every day for 2 or 3 weeks, by week 3, you'll find that once you roll your eyes up and start looking out into the peripheral vision, you'll already feel yourself beginning to relax. And for the people who have difficulty sleeping at night, I have them have a notebook by the bed. And when you go to bed, jot down a maximum of 10 bullet points of things that are running around your head. Could be milk, could be roosters, could whatever it is. And if you only have 5 points, don't look for another five, like one of my clients did. I spent half an hour trying to find another five and I couldn't find them. Great. If you only have five, five is perfect. But a maximum of 10. And just jot that down in the notebook. Go through that exercise, and you should find that it's much easier to start to drift off to sleep. If you wake up in the middle of the night, do the same thing. Grab the notebook, don't turn your light on. You're not going to read what you've written, so it doesn't matter how you write it, where you write it. Just grab the notebook, write down whatever's in your mind, then go through that exercise. And you'll find that that starts to train the mind to shut out the head chatter. Plus, anything that we write down, that unconscious 5-year-old thinks we've dealt with or we're dealing with. Things that we don't write down, the 5-year-old is kind of hanging on to it in our mind, you know. And when we go to sleep, that's the time when we're quiet. So the 5-year-old is like, oh, what are you going to do about this? Have you thought about that? Do you remember this? What are we going to say about what? So it's literally like the 5-year-old tugging at you. You know, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? But when you write those things down, it can let them go. And so people find that they can actually sleep much better. Once we've gone through the sensory relaxation, the breathing exercise, the what ifs, then we really look at the answers to those questions that I was asking you earlier, the factors that led into your anxiety. And so for some people, then we may need to do grief letters. So if there's been people that you've lost that you haven't really had closure with, or that there's still lots of technical term stuff coming up about, it's a really good idea to write a grief letter to that person as though you were going to give it to them. You write it over 3 days. You write everything and anything that you wish you could say, good, bad, indifferent. At the end of day 3, you're either going to burn that letter, or you're going to bury it, or you're going to rip it into shreds and discard it. That's really important because anything that we dispose of in that way, our unconscious mind thinks we've dealt with. And for most people, they're surprised at how much they've been hanging on to that they really weren't even aware they were hanging on to when they write that letter. And sometimes it's not about people, you know, it can be people who've passed away, past relationships. But for other people, it can be things like having had to move to somewhere different and leave their entire family, friendship circle. You know, we have a lot of people here that think it's a great thing to move to Hawaii, and only then after 6 to 9 months do they start to realize that I don't have my support network. Oh, I don't have my friend that I can just go for a coffee with. Oh, it's hard to meet people because we've all been indoors with COVID. So there's things that we can do grief letters for which aren't necessarily to people who've passed away. It can be to a place that we've lived. It can be to a work situation if we've lost our job suddenly and really didn't have time for closure. So you can do a grief letter for lots of different things. So that's one of the things that I may have my clients do. Another thing is if they've said, yes, I'm a perfectionist, we may need to work on lessening that perfectionism. We may need to learn about how to say no, to put those boundaries in place with people. That's a very common one that leads into anxiety, is that, doing everything for everybody because we can't say no. And for everything that we do that is just for somebody else, our unconscious 5-year-old gets the message, I don't count. And so there's a series of questions I have my clients start to learn to run through with everything that they do so that they can determine, is this actually the right thing for me to say yes to? Or should I say no to this? Is it beneficial to say no? And then how to say no? Because most people bury no in the middle of a sentence, and they think they've said no, and yet all they've done is give a mixed message. So your key when you say no to someone or something, even to yourself, no, thank you for asking, because the thank you slips into somebody else's unconscious mind. I really can't come. No, thank you for asking. I really can't help. Oh, but if you don't help me clear out my garage, there's nobody else that's going to help me. I really need you to come do it with me. No, thanks for asking. I really can't come. And you can see that there's nothing that they can utilize there to manipulate you with. You're not giving them any information. It's just clear that you're saying no. And what you find is if you're somebody who hasn't been saying no, the first few times you do it, you're kind of waiting for the backlash. And then after you've done it maybe 3 or 4 times, you're going to start wondering, why didn't I do this years ago? And the people that don't listen, the people who continue to try and get something out of you and manipulate you, they'll actually tend to drop off. And it's okay, because they weren't actually your friend in the first place. They were there for whatever you could provide for them. And so that's one of the things that starts to happen when we put boundaries in place, is that we start to weed out some of the people in our life who maybe are there for the wrong reasons. And so when you start working on these things, it causes shifts in all areas of your life. And that's a great thing. We come out of this different to when we went in. And with the tools that, if there are situations in the future that occur and we realize, oh, I'm starting to go down that track again, I'm doing those what ifs, we can rein it in very quickly and prevent ourselves from ever going down that whole rabbit hole again. I also have techniques. How much longer do we have, Shayna? Okay. Um, yeah. So boundaries, perfectionism, they're the main things that we often tend to work with anxiety. And then there's also some techniques that I work with people that are just purely to relieve symptoms. So while we're doing all of this other work, whatever's specific to the person, it's also useful to have some tools to simply just work on the feeling of anxiety. Maybe you have to go to work every day and you get that knot in your stomach as soon as you leave the house, and you want to lessen that feeling so that you can feel better going to work. Or maybe it's just going to the grocery store, getting in the car and driving to go to the grocery store, and you know that the minute you leave the house, you have that kind of knot in your stomach or that feeling in your body. So there's an exercise that we can do to relieve that symptom. And it's an exercise that I have my clients practice, because sometimes the first 1 or 2 times they do it, they don't get, a great result. You'll get a slight result, and then they'll start to get more and more result every time that they do it. So I'd like you all to focus on a feeling that you've got in your body. It may not be anxiety, but if you have anxiety, if I've kind of made you anxious by talking about anxiety, then go with that feeling. But even if you have a pain anywhere in your body or a discomfort, you can use this exercise for it. So what I'm going to get you to do is to close your eyes and to just really tune into that feeling in your body, whether it's the pain, the discomfort, whether it's anxiousness, whatever the feeling, physical feeling is in your body that you want to work with. And then I want you to notice who or what does that feeling remind you of? Who or what does that feeling remind you of? And then I want you to notice that feeling. If that feeling were to have a color, what color would it be? If that feeling were to have a shape, what shape would it be? If it were to have a texture, what texture would it be? Does that feeling have a sound? And if so, what is that sound? And is it heavy or light? And then I want you to begin to infiltrate in your mind a soothing color, a color that is soothing for you, and begin to infiltrate that soothing color into whatever color that shape is for you. You may want to infiltrate the beautiful blue of the ocean or the sky, or the green of the grass, or just a color that's soothing for you. Noticing that shape, and it's beginning to turn that shape maybe into a circle or an oval, something different to what it is right now. And then begin smoothing out the texture. So, whatever that texture is, just begin to smooth it right out until it becomes silky smooth, or like the surface of a lake or a pond, or maybe like the surface of a glass table. Just smooth. Then bringing in a sound of something that you enjoy. Maybe it's the sound of the birds. Maybe it's the sound of some music that you really enjoy. Maybe it's just whatever it is, just begin to bring in a sound that soothes you. And then just bring in some lightness, some air, so that that becomes as light as air, as fluffy as a cloud, as light as a feather. And then just lock that into place. And you can snap your finger, Or you can make the sound in your mind of a Tupperware lid closing. Tupperware's great. And then just open your eyes and just notice if that feeling is lessened. And so when I'm working with a specific client, I'll know exactly what their feeling looks like, sounds like, what texture it is, because I'm asking them and they're responding to me. So with them, we're working very specifically with that. Here, I had to be a little more generic because you've all got different things happening. But the key is to change whatever that color is to something more soothing, to change the sound to something more soothing, to change the shape into something that's, for most people, if it's pain or if it's anxiety, often the shape can be square or oblong or hexagonal or jagged or rough. So it's about making that into something that's maybe more circular. And then for most people, if it's pain or if it's anxiety, they'll find that it's quite heavy in weight. And so we're always making it lighter. But if you find that your response is light, just make it a little lighter still. So you're changing all of those things in your mind. And it really doesn't matter if you can see, if you can visualize in your mind, or if you're just allowing your mind to give you the answers. It works just the same. We're not all visual. And so it works just the same. And so, what you tend to find is if you start practicing that exercise, you'll be able to start bringing that anxiety feeling, or if we're using it for pain or discomfort, you'll be able to start bringing that down. And so, it's always good to ask yourself before you start, what level is my anxiety at? That feeling. And it's about a 9. And then you ask yourself at the end and you notice, oh, it's actually dropped to a 7 or it's dropped to a 4. So that's a great technique to use. And I have another one in the book as well. That's a great technique to use to relieve the symptom. It's not going to treat the underlying cause, which is what all the other exercises are for, but it is going to make your life easier, make you be able to go to work, go to the grocery store, whatever it is, meet those friends, whatever it is, make that phone call. And so that helps. So in my book, I have the questions in the book. We go through, and just as I've done with you this morning, we'll work out what the factors are for that led to your anxiety. What are the specific things then that you need to work on to relieve it? And I've also got a lot of real client examples in here, stories about clients and how they implemented things or didn't implement things and what the results were. So I have that book here if anybody wants it. But hopefully there's been some useful tips and techniques here for you this morning that you can use and take away with you. And thank you for having me. Did anybody have any questions? Yes. Nope. If anyone's got any questions, then yep. Uh-huh. Yeah. 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 Yes. And there's different variations on it too, because some people use 7 4 7, but I find that for most people the 5 5 5 it's easy to remember, and when you have anxiety you need things that are easy to remember. So it's easy to remember and it's pretty easy for most people to do. Yeah. Yeah, just a regular, but we're aiming to get it from the belly. So it's really really out from the belly. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't do the with them, but it's really getting that controlled, smooth exhale. Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome. Yep. Oh, right. Okay. So the last question was about the 5x5 breathing, is whether we do that as a breath. And so, no, we're actually doing the exhale as a very smooth, very controlled exhale from the belly. Any other questions? So Stephen was asking how much the books are, and the books are actually $15. And they are also available on Amazon. They're available at Sweet Wind in Waimea, at Kona Stories. It's available on Barnes Noble. So really anywhere where you'd get books from, it can be ordered. But Amazon have it, and I have them here, and I can sign them. Yes? So the question was, do I think that the information age and social media has dramatically increased anxiety? And in certain cases, yes. And I do see that probably in the younger people, because they're very aware of negative comments that are happening on their feeds or their posts or anything. I have people that are in business that actually employ somebody or have a friend that does their social media because they cannot handle looking at the negative comments on their post. And so what we're doing is we're taking that to heart, and we're doing all the what if thinking. You know, what if I post this and somebody else doesn't like it? What if this gets me into problems? What if I get a lot of negative? What if I get trolls when I post this? And so, yes, and that perfectionism too plays into it, because for a lot of people, social media, it's about posting those very best things that we do. Not many people post, oh my gosh, I had a bit of a tough day. You know, it was really, I lost my husband 6 months ago, and it was kind of tough to just get in the car and go to the grocery store today. Not many people post that. People post pictures about how wonderful this little segment of their life is. And that's great. And that's fun, but we should be aware that it's just a snapshot. It's just a segment of somebody's life. It's not 24/7. We're not there 24/7. And so, yes, that having to be perfect or having to create all those things that look perfect can be anxiety inducing for some. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
One that you were talking about humming and chanting. I sing to myself all the time.
Yeah.
So I was just, when you said humming and chanting and not singing, it's like, sometimes there's exceptions to every rule.
Singing is great because it brings the endorphins. So with the singing, you're getting the endorphins, the happy chemicals. So that's great.
I'm just an exception to that rule.
But you know, occasionally you drop it down and just chant or just hum the song. It's fun.
Okay, I'll try.
Change it out a little. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I aim to be as practical and simple as possible, because if we have anxiety, we don't want to read a whole lot of fluff. We don't want to try and understand things. We need something that we can do and do right now. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. I think that was something that we all could get some very useful tips, because anxiety is rampant and we can just lessen it. So thanks so much. That was great. We're going to be passing the Koa Bowl next while Voboda plays some money music. And give give as generously as you're comfortable with and can. Will help New Thought get through the pandemic and catch up a bit.
No sound. Test, test, test. There you go. Can you hear me now? Hello, hello. Kauai. Manu. Kalanipo. Kiapai. O pua. Ua kaolana. Oh, ikamaile. Ao, anahele. Ike ala. Oh, no, no. Okamoki hana. Iwi yame. Maile lovely. Ke ala eno eno. O na malini. Aina ia mai. Anaka uana. Ulei Mokihana. E moanine. な山へ花かうわなくれいもき花おいなおれ
Okay. Thank you again. And thank you all for your green energy here. And just your presence here is contributing to the energy that feels really good today. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your green energy. And you know, they say whatever you donate comes back to you 20-fold. So you're all going to have a good week. And I've got a few. Carolyn, do you want to make an announcement or? Yeah.
Yes, so the only announcement really that I have is that I do work with clients from all over the world. So I do work with clients from all over the world via Zoom. So I'm only here in Kona for another few weeks. You can contact me through anxietythebook.com. That's probably the best place to contact me because once I move to Australia, I probably will have a different website. Currently, I'm bigislandhypnosis.com. And although it's a big island, they don't tend to think of themselves as Big Island. So anxietythebook.com, you can contact me through. And I can work with anyone via Zoom. So the other thing, which is not really related to this, but because I am moving, I have a car to sell. So if anyone knows anyone who's looking for a 2013 Kia Optima, mine is really efficient. And that's it. Thank you.
The new thought announcements for the week. Um, we have Sunday services at 10 o'clock every Sunday. It can be in person and also live stream. If you get the New Thought newsletter every week, you'll have the link to it, the YouTube link. Childcare is free, but we would like to have a reservation because he doesn't always show up if there's nobody there. Next Sunday, Igor Siberia. Breath University is the name of his talk. On the 22nd, Marie Rose Funlay, Transformation, How Trying Times Can Be a Catalyst for Creativity. Music by Marie Rose and Dick Franklin. The 29th of January, Linda Boozer. She's always an energetic speaker. So Rome is burning and she's talking about joy. Music by Lori Callie. The weekly classes, Monday, Tai Chi, 4:30 to 5:30, Jin An Wang. All levels, $15 a class. The last Sunday every month is the produce giveaway. The next time is January 29th. Crystal bowls will be on the first Sunday of the month. Right now, we're having them at 8:30. That might change. So if you're interested, keep up on the time. And service opportunities. We would like to have all the help we can get in anything that you see here that you think you could contribute to. Greeters, cleanup, setup. Patty Wall's been doing as I said, the lays forever. She would like to get some somebody interested to help her out there. And if you're not on the mailing list and want to be, there's a book there to sign up on. Any other announcements? Pasha. Talk loud. Oh, lunch. We're going to the Thai restaurant down in the Keaho Shopping Center. Anybody think that they would like to join us? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Sounds good. And Pasha has. Do you want to hold this?
So our Christmas tree has served us very well. Many people think it's the best one we've ever had, but it's getting ready to reincarnate as firewood. Our Tai Chi teacher has a wood burning stove, but he doesn't want to burn our ornaments. So if you have time to maybe just take off 5, if everybody here took off 5 ornaments and put them in that kind of dark charcoal gray bin right next to the tree. We've been transitioning away from glass, so although they kind of look like glass, they aren't really. So you don't have to be super careful. I mean, don't throw them or anything, but you can just put them in that bin. That's where they were before we started decorating, and then it'll be ready for its next service. Thank you.
And if taking off 5 ornaments isn't enough, you can start taking off things from around the room too. The holiday. All right. We are ready for our closing song. So let's circle up. And if you want to hold hands, or that's your choice or not.